It's a wonderful visual effect, that, isn't it? It's not intended, trust me. Right, welcome back to part 2 of episode 1 of Ring Roast, where I now have looked at the clock and I know what the time is now, so I'll know when we get near 10 minutes. Right, as it's been a very, very, very long time since I have made anything, I am going to just talk about some of the things that I can remember that have gone on that I've thought had some impact between now and then. Impact, no pun intended, as they would laughingly say on PWR, because it's their favourite joke. Also going to talk a little about PWR in a little while, as well as WWE and TNA. Sorry to all of those of you that watch Ring of Honor, we don't get it over here, and I'm not interested enough to bother watching it on the internet, to be honest with you. It is just me sat in my dining room making these, so there is only so much time in the day for me to actually sit and watch wrestling, and unlike a lot of the IWC, I am a wrestling fan, not a wrestling fan. I enjoy the storylines when they're well done. Having said that, I enjoy the matches when they're well done, which I have watched some Ring of Honor, so I am aware that they do some very, very good matches. However, I find it difficult to be involved in the match and to get emotionally involved in it without there being enough storyline behind it to explain what's going on, which, as we don't get a weekly broadcast of it here, it's very difficult to keep up with, and the investment for me is just not there. And I'd have to say, as much as WWE and TNA fail some of the time for their matches to be very good, that's not always the case. I agree with what probably most of you would agree with, that as far as actual wrestling goes, of the two companies that we're talking about, TNA is probably the better wrestling show than WWE. WWE, obviously, a lot more polished, a lot more atmosphere in large arenas than there is in the Impact Zone, especially of late, as the Impact Zone seems to have gone back to being primarily people from the theme park and not wrestling fans that have actually gone along to watch the programme. Excuse me if you can hear a funny noise, my phone is interfering with my speakers. Right, these aren't in any chronological order or anything else, it's just things that I think are important to discuss. We'll start on they. This has just gone on forever. Is there any real need for them to keep this going on for so long? Especially with it being TNA, where you're used to them hot-shotting absolutely everything. And they hot-shot it to death. And then they have this going on for, what, are we up to 10 weeks now, something like that? It's still intriguing to me, because I'd like to know where they're going to go with it. I don't know if they even have a plan of where to go with it. I don't know if it was something that was being preempted towards Paul E coming, and evidently at this precise moment in time he's not going to be coming. Also, he says, I never listen to anything any of them say there. Or whether it is something that they've had an end game for all along, I don't know. My personal opinion, what I think would be absolutely brilliant if they did it, is that they took the obvious option with a slightly less obvious twist. So you take the obvious option that there is no day, it's a figment of Abyss's imagination and he's mental. Yeah? However, there is a day. We have people playing the characters of they, and only Abyss can see them. And does, obviously, we can all see them, but as far as the show is concerned, nobody that's involved with the show can see them, and Abyss can stand and talk to them, and everybody can ignore the fact that they're there and just walk past them, we could even get to the point where they interfere in matches in little ways, like, you know, so the old girls trick where they grab the boot as they bounce off the ropes, and then you could have people standing up and looking around behind them, trying to figure out who tripped them up when there's nobody there, but we can all see somebody. I think it'd be hilarious if it was done well. I don't think that's what they will do with it. I think that's completely out of the range of the thought process of the creative team at TNA would just not do that sort of thing. And I suppose there are logistical problems with it happening as well. That what happens when somebody bumps into somebody on camera, although Impact's not live, so that's not an issue really, is it? You can polish it well enough before you put it out there that you don't show any of that on camera at least. And yes, the people in the Impact Zone would see it happening. However, they're props. They're there to give it some atmosphere and to make it work from it being a live show in front of an audience point of view. That who cares if 300-400 people see you bump into them? It's not the end of the world. It's the show that you're making for the TV program, which is the important part. Whatever they do with it, I hope they do it soon, because I'm bored of it now. What else? We've also got the Jarrett Sting thing. I think Sting's back in TNA now. His suspension's been served, and we're back on all that again. Evidently Sting's saying that Jarrett knows that Hogan and Bischoff are actually not goodies, they're baddies, and that he's going along with it, whether they are or he knows or whatever is a mystery to everybody, because they don't carry these storylines into each other. It's just blotted around all over the place, and they'll not mention it for weeks because they suspended Sting halfway through the storyline. And it does. I don't think I care. That's the problem. If you were to turn Hogan heel again, it's just a blatant attempt to do what TNA seems to do an awful lot of, which is to try and steal other people's thunder. It'd just be trying to recreate the WCW moment when he came down and was part of the NWA for the first time. The NWO. You have to excuse me when I keep looking at my screen instead of my camera. I just think I'm so beautiful, I've got to look at myself as much as humanly possible. I find it very difficult to sit and actually just look at the camera when I can see myself waving myself around in the corner, and I want to check that I'm where I'm sitting in the camera and that sort of thing, and I keep glancing at it and talking to myself. But I'm sure you'll forgive me for that one, both of you that will watch this. Right, what else are we going to talk about? Oh, NXT. I think it was fairly well done. I think it should be done with now. And let the guys go out there. You've given them a push, you've given them some airtime as a group when they probably couldn't hold the airtime as themselves. And now you should introduce the characters more. I am convinced that the entire Daniel Bryan thing is a contrived mess of a thing. Yes, he did work for other wrestling companies while he was away from the WWE. However, I personally believe that the whole thing was set up to have him come back at that point. The end game was always there. The WWE don't write things week to week unless things go wrong. But they are much better at looking further ahead in the way they make their product. And I believe that they faked us all out with it. They brought him in, they fucked him around basically, they made him lose, they got rid of him early from NXT. They then brought him back when we had the Nexus. They fired him for questionable reasons, if you like. They fired up a lot of people with we want Bryan chants and all that sort of thing to bring him back. I think the problem that perhaps has happened is that they left it a little bit long. Anyway, I think my 10 minutes are probably up at this part, so I'll make part 3 as I haven't really talked about very much. So join me again in part 3 of episode 1 of Ring Roast.